Okay, if you're a KISS fan, this video is for you. Gary, I don't think we've ever made a video, and I know I haven't on this channel, where we talk specifically about Rock and Roll Over.
No, great album.
This was a great album. And as a matter of fact, Rock and Roll Over was my first, not only first KISS album, it was my first album.
Oh, no kidding.
And I actually have a great KISS story around this. Now, this is not my original copy.
Okay.
But it's in my family. And you know who has it? My son has it. Now, you got to hear the story. You're really going to, this is an awesome story.
I'm listening.
So that book right there, Paul Stanley's book, okay?
Right.
He was in Denver, Colorado, and he was there to do a book signing. So I had the book, and I took my son because
Sure.
because my son's going to go meet Paul Stanley. We're going to go get the book signed.
Yes, you got to meet this guy.
And I bring my Rock and Roll Over album, thinking maybe I can get Paul to sign my first album I ever owned, right?
Gotcha. That's
So
good so far.
I go in there with my son, and they have this whole thing set up where basically you just buy a book and he's already signed it, and you go up and take a picture with him, and it's like you just avoid the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
It
Time
was
saver.
Yeah, something like
Make it
that. So he'd
efficient.
already signed like 1,000 books or something, and there's this line that just stretches all through the store. I mean, seriously, there was a lot of people there.
Do you think they really sign each single one?
I don't know,
All right. Well,
but
you would think so.
you would think that he would. So anyway, so then my son's holding my copy of Rock and Roll Over, and I had my book, and I was going to go in there and get the picture taken. And if you didn't get your picture taken, you could get him to sign it. It was basically like one or the other.
Okay.
Hey, if you want to, grab one of these that's already signed and then just get a picture taken, or have him sign it and no picture. That was
Right.
basically the thing. Okay, so we get up to the front of the line. And my son, this is years ago, so he's a
Sure.
little bit younger. And we get up there to take the picture, and my son, I don't remember exactly how it happened, but said, "Would you sign the record?" And Paul says, they're not letting me sign anything but books. They'd even said that, like, you're just books. That's all we're doing
Right.
today. They won't let me sign anything but books. And then he says, and this was the coolest thing. Paul says, "By the way, what's your name?" And my son says, "Andrew." And he goes, "Andrew, yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe another time I'll be able to do that. Let me see that. This was a really cool record. You know what? I got to go take care of something really quickly." He walked away. This is Paul Stanley.
Right.
Walks behind a bookshelf to Andrew, blah, 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 blah,
No
blah,
way.
blah. He walks back to my son and he says, "Yeah, like I said, they won't really let me sign these things, but hey, thanks for coming in. Let's take a picture." Bam. And then we walk off.
And then he sees it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we knew what he was doing. You could see what he was doing, but it was just one of these things where it was just such a cool moment. So
is
now,
awesome.
so what was my KISS album
Now is to Andrew.
is his KISS album, which is awesome. And so he has it at his apartment. He's got KISS Rock and Roll Over.
Yeah, that's
and,
awesome.
And it was just such a cool thing that he kind of handled it that way, because in those moments they're handlers and whatever, they don't want you to spend a lot of time. We're selling books today. We're not selling
Right.
records.
Yeah, this
And
isn't a memorabilia sign.
Yeah, right. But it was
Got it.
still so cool that he did that. And so anyway, but I have such fond memories of this record.
Sure.
Because I was what, 7 years old or 8 years old when it came out in 1977. So I guess it would have been 8 years old when somebody gave it to me or something. I was a little kid and they're like, "Hey, you'll like this,"
Right.
And I went crazy. I played that thing so much. I think today I could sing every single song on there except for one. Every time I would come to Hard Luck Woman, I'd skip
You
it.
didn't like Hard
when
Luck
I was
Woman?
when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But interestingly, today it's like, you know what? I dig that tune.
That's a good song.
It's a really cool tune. But anyway, that's my Rock and Roll Over, and I to this day think this is, for my very first album. Not only is it one of the best KISS albums, this is one of the greatest album covers,
Without a doubt.
not just of KISS.
Any.
That is just one of the greatest album covers ever created. And it's sandwiched in between Destroyer and Love Gun,
Right.
which were two of the most iconic.
Yeah, no, it's
KISS covers.
It's awesome. Back in high school in those days, people wore like the denim jackets that people
Yeah.
would airbrush, right? So my first album was Love Gun, and I had shared the story that that somebody had the Love Gun album kind of on their back of their denim jacket. There was another guy later on, and I ended up going, I think it was to one of the KISS concerts in the 80s, and he had this album on the back of his jacket. And I was just like, that mofo is cool. I don't care. I mean, that is just iconic. Like, if I could pick one, this would be what I'd get. You know, it just because it's so artsy, but yet cool. I mean, we can just spend time just breaking it down. Gene with the tongue and just the looks like the razor, you know, kind of thing, and just how it's balanced, but yet it's individualized. There's so much cool art right there. It's great.
The capturing the characters, the personalities behind the whole thing. I mean, the cat, and he's kind of in the jungle back there. And hang on just a second, this will be really quick. With hundreds of videos on our channel now, we've made playlists to make it easy for you to find whatever the thing is that you're interested in. We have a playlist with all of our Rush videos, KISS, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen. We have categories like 80s metal and even our popular magazine flip-throughs, where we go through page by page with Circus Magazine, Hit Parader, and others, all in 4K resolution. You'll find it all organized and ready to explore. Just click the playlist tab on our channel's homepage. All right, back to the video. We've got the fire and the space. I mean, it's just everything about it.
Right?
They did such a great job capturing each one of these characters, what they represent, and in this graphic depiction.
Yeah.
It's just anyway. It's so and it's so good that they just put it on both sides.
Yeah, well, it's so good we're putting it on both sides.
we can't get enough of this. We're gonna use
maybe
this
they're
as
getting
the
their
front
money's
and back.
worth.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right.
We paid this artist, whoever did this. I don't know you by name, but whoever put this together, artist, graphic artist. This is not CGI type stuff.
No,
right
this
here.
it's
or AI. This is somebody actually put this together and designed it. And dude, kudos to you, and for the band to be like, that is cool. We're going with this one.
Oh yeah.
'Cause
Oh
obviously
yeah.
they had to
Instantly, if
pick
you
it.
saw somebody present this, I'd be like, done. Okay. Do anything else we have to talk about? Yeah. It's really that good. Now it's interesting to me because also I was learning and discovering KISS at the time, which put an interesting wrinkle because I don't know if you realize this, but there was no internet back then. None. And my parents didn't know anything about KISS. And
Right.
I knew very little other than I had this. And so I started trying to figure out, well, who are these guys?
Right.
I really didn't know. You know, I didn't know their names. I didn't know really anything about it other than it was just these guys. Yeah. And it was interesting because I'm going to show you something that was kind of funny because I still remember this. Because I look at this, that's, by the way,
also cool.
Kind of just a cool little graphic like this. What I had to do is I was literally reading this, trying to figure out if I can match these names somehow to these
characters.
Faces. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you the conclusion that I came up with was that because we had this name Paul Stanley, I figured out that he was Paul Stanley. The other name on here is Shawn Delaney, and I thought he looked like a Shawn. So he was Shawn Delaney.
Okay.
And I don't remember. Yeah, and somehow I think I had figured out that Gene Simmons and Peter Criss were the other two. Because I think it might have been something at that point that everybody in the world knew Gene Simmons was the guy with the tongue. And maybe that was the case. But anyway, I had figured out that that's what these two guys' names were. Because I kept seeing Shawn Delaney, and that seemed like...
Right.
But Shawn Delaney was Bill Aucoin's partner.
Right.
And he actually played a really, really big role in the development of KISS.
They called him like the fifth KISS member or something like that. He had kind of some monikers because he was behind the scenes involved with them.
Yeah, and not just in the early days when he and Bill started working with him, because I remember reading somewhere that he was the guy that when he saw them doing that thing, that he was like, they thought it was kind of cheesy. He's like, no. You do that.
Yeah, because I think he had like a theater background or something like that. And so the choreographed moves, which you guys watching this, and if you're a KISS fan, you know that like at the end of Deuce, you know.
Because it was
like
this double.
And then they do the double pump or whatever. But dude.
It was
Nobody did
so
it back
cool.
then.
It was so cool.
Nobody did it back then. Right now, everybody's got everything choreographed, and you got to hit your mark. Be on the same. You got to be here when this light goes on. Back then, dude. The choreographing, that was cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That was impressive.
And then Shawn Delaney got involved with writing some of these tunes on here. And, so he ended up not only those other things, but he was kind of a songwriter, I guess. And while you weren't looking, there's Shawn Delaney's.
Whoa.
I think you might have bought this thing and brought it in some time ago. Or I don't know, maybe I did. I don't remember.
I can't, you know what? Yeah.
But there's Shawn Delaney's. So, in case you're wondering, you can get Shawn Delaney's. I don't know that I've ever listened to this, but there he is right there. There's the man with his own.
I want to say I found it in
Yeah, I think you found it in Idaho or something.
Yeah. Like a pawn shop or something.
Yeah, anyway, there you go. As we were talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to see if I can go find it. And there it is.
There's a chance to bring it out.
We got to use every record at some point. I wonder what the significance of all the cards to pick. Why the 8 of Hearts? Any Shawn Delaney fans out there that could let us in on what the point was of the 8 of Hearts? Anyway, look. These are great tunes. And Shawn was involved with a few of these tunes.
No, so from beginning to end, I think this is an extremely, like you said in the beginning, an extremely strong KISS album. For one, I really think it's just raw, more bombastic. Ace's playing, the vocals, everything. I'm sure at 7 years old, when you're cranking, making love all night long, probably wasn't going over well.
It's funny because I wonder, I've talked about this before.
Because we didn't know.
I was oblivious to the song Love 'Em, Leave 'Em. You got, and you just listen to the lyrics today, and I'm like, I was 8 years old. But I was,
cranking.
Again, no idea. It was just this cool sound.
You had it on 11, and you were going full throttle.
See you in your dreams. Love 'Em, Leave 'Em. Hard Luck Woman. Making Love. Take Me. I Want You. That was so. In the morning, I raise my head, and it was this thing where it starts off kind of slow, and then
yeah, dude.
I want you.
Isn't that like the first song? One thing that I do remember when I got this is that the order that's on the back.
This is not right.
It's not the order that's on the album.
I Want You is as I recall, that is the first song.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I just remember putting that on and going, what the hell?
I looked out this morning and the sun was. It's that same kind of thing where it starts off with this slow thing, and then it's like bam. Oh my gosh! I used to look.
Good.
I still today could listen to that and go, because Paul is top form in that tune and just this album front to back. Great.
Yeah. No, Paul is. His vocals are really strong.
Never been better than on this album, in my opinion. This is so tight. It's so fantastic. And then Calling Dr. Love, of course.
Big Gene song.
Classic Gene song. Baby Driver. There's a little Peter.
Peter, yeah.
Oh, baby driver, keep driving on and along. Isn't it something like that?
Yeah,
it's kind of a 50s. It has kind of a 50s riff to it.
Yeah, and he sounds great.
He's amazing.
Great.
And then Mr. Speed. They call me Mr. Speed.
Yeah.
Oh man, such a great album.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do is, and the reason I got this out and wanted to talk about it was, what we do on this channel a lot is we find these old articles. Well, there was this one that I found. I actually found this a long time ago, and I've been waiting to read through this because I thought it was so interesting.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it isn't specifically about Rock and Roll Over, but it's from this. It's an article that was written while this was out at this time period.
Gotcha.
So this album had been out. I think this came out in. I could be wrong. I didn't look it up ahead of time, but I think it was November of '77, something like that. Anyway, it was in '77, getting towards the end. Or sorry, 76. November of 76.
Yeah.
And then this article is January of 97. What's that?
I said
I'm pretty sure that's right.
I don't have my dates. I don't have my memory is more
KISS
definitely
KISS
different.
Dates are a little they get so compressed. Because so much happens so fast.
Right.
So I'm just going to double check this and make sure that I got this right. November 11th of 76.
Oh, good job.
Okay.
We got some hardcore cool fans that are watching, and some of you kind of bag on us a little bit for not having all the facts straight. But, dude, let me tell you, sometimes I don't remember what the hell I did yesterday, much less something that, we're drawing on memories 40 years old.
A lot of the show is obviously improvised. And there's certain things we don't think about. Do we? Oh yeah, we should look that up real quick before time. We do look some things up just to make sure, but sometimes that stuff.
And what?
Like, what was that?
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love the fact that you guys keep us honest, and amongst yourselves are like, no, you guys are good. You're doing this right. Hey, you missed this. You should have mentioned that. That's fantastic. That's what this is, right?
Yeah.
This is what it's about.
Actually, the comment sections are one of the greatest parts of these videos.
And we so appreciate it. I think it's great to hear some of the comments and dialogues. I mean, between everybody. But I'm interested to hear what this article's about.
This one's really... I found this really interesting. So this is from the Morning World, January 19th, 1977. And the title of this article is Kiss Invites Audience Fantasies. Okay. So I just, like I said, I read through most of this and I thought this was pretty interesting. Alice Cooper, who frightened parents with his female name and the violent images in the stage show which went along with his rock concerts, now can take a back seat to Kiss. For one thing, there are 4 members of Kiss and they are enormously popular. The producer of their 5th record album, Destroyer, Bob Ezrin, said the album conveys the group's image as symbols of just unfettered evil and sexuality. Now, there's the first interesting thing about it, Bob Ezrin and Alice Cooper, because that's who Bob Ezrin really kind of cut his teeth was with Alice Cooper.
Right.
And so this whole idea of him coming in to work with Kiss afterwards was kind of maybe a natural thing.
Oh, that makes sense.
But it was, they weren't really, I think in the audience's mind, these people were connected, but they weren't.
Right.
A lot of people think that, okay, the Dolls and Alice Cooper kind of led to Kiss, but to have then Bob Ezrin, who produces Alice, eventually helping Kiss,
some of Alice's best stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, and when you look at Kiss, everybody knows the story. They put out those first 3 albums that just kind of but they were making a big splash live. Put out Alive, which succeeds famously.
Right.
Hugely famous. And then...
saves Casablanca Records.
And then Bob Ezrin walks in and basically says, okay, campers, do you want to go back to what you were doing before, or are we going to make a real record?
Right.
And then and the story is about him coming in with a whistle, literally treating them like campers. And like a bunch of kids like, hey, we got to be serious now. And then he got... down. Yeah, and he got involved in this record more than any other producer I probably ever did, because he's helping arrange things and write things. And
now, are we talking Destroyer?
We're talking about Destroyer.
Gotcha.
Yes,
okay, just
which was right before this.
Right.
But that's what he's talking about here, is that they say Kiss... the producer of 5th album, Destroyer, Bob Ezrin, said the album conveys the group's image as symbols of unfettered evil and sexuality. Members of Kiss, their ages are 24 to 30, don't make statements like that, preferring to present themselves as mysterious. They don't want to say that they're evil and sexy or that they're really nice, normal guys off stage. Alice Cooper recently has been saying the latter about himself. So Alice Cooper's in this place starting to make excuses like, hey, I'm a golfer, or whatever. You know what he became.
Right.
And then Kiss is like, we don't do that. We just present what we present.
I never... till I got older, I should say, in my introduction to Kiss, it was just like, they might as well be comic book heroes. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I never looked at them as evil, or maybe my ignorance, but I never looked at them back in those days, at least when I was younger, as overly sexualized. Now, yeah, I kind of,
Yeah, like I said before,
in retrospect, I was missing the mark. Maybe
when I saw Dr. Frankenfurter in Rocky Horror, you're like, that's a lot like Paul Stanley, and you realize that that's kind of from the same kind of thing, this androgynous kind of sexuality. But that was his thing. But getting back to your point, though, it wasn't that they were evil or this or that; they were just characters.
Right.
They were comic book
we've
characters.
Talked about that. How everybody gravitated towards one. And it's kind of, I remember my mom saying everybody had a favorite Beatle, right? And then, and how that was like a thing. Well, I like Paul or Ringo or whomever. And I think KISS had that allure too. Is like how many kids, right? We mentioned that during, a past episode where we talked about Peter Criss. The cat makes total sense. It's the most identifiable one.
Yep.
That's the cat man.
Yeah.
He's a cat. I don't know what this other guy is, and the star dude, and space dude, right? I mean, you have to kind of get to it.
But think about how what
that
you
gave
do,
him that Marvel type of.
That's what I was just going to say.
Character.
Because even with Marvel, you have your favorite superheroes, but you also have your favorite supervillains too.
For sure.
And so when they start talking about these are evil, what Gene Simmons was, because he actually in that, I think that Mike Douglas thing that one time says, I'm the embodiment of evil, but he isn't. That character was supposed to be, and he also didn't know what to say in the moment, but that was kind of a weird moment. But the point was, he is playing this, and as a young kid, you're looking at it going, dude, that is so cool.
Well, when Alive 2 came out, you're like, and seeing the picture
blood,
of him on the back, you're like,
sweat.
Dude, that guy is evil.
Well, yeah, it's true. But it was cool too.
Oh, yeah, that
because if you saw that in a movie with a supervillain, you'd love him.
Yeah,
you'd love. This is one of the greatest villains. I love this guy, even though he's a bad guy. I love
for sure
because again, in the world of comics, you have the superheroes, supervillains, and you love both of them.
Right.
It's part of the story.
It's just I mean, without a doubt, that is totally true.
So here we go. KISS members don't permit photographs of themselves out of stage makeup. Bassist Gene Simmons explains it would blow the magic. Guitarist Paul Stanley adds, there's a lot more mystique and glamour to the stage image than the four of us being normal looking. Unquote. They want audience members to be free to build whatever fantasies they want to around one or all members of KISS. And that's exactly
that makes sense.
And so where Alice Cooper is out trying to explain himself and say,
different.
Really, I'm not that.
Maybe that's why Bob Ezrin was like, oh, these guys are like this.
Because he's carrying on the Alice
Cooper thing. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, and then these guys are like,
that's not what we are.
We're characters that you guys do whatever you want to.
Right.
With. And we did. An interview with Simmons and Stanley begins with Simmons wearing jeans, shirt, no makeup, platform boots, silver spider bracelet, necklace of, going to the top, silver skulls, and brown spider belt buckle, offering cake made by his mother. KISS got together in 1973. Makeup, smoke bombs, flash pots, and flying sparks were part of the show from the start, Simmons says. Quote, we didn't want to be another boring band. We wanted to be the greatest show on earth, unquote. Simmons, born in the borough of Queens, and Stanley, born in Manhattan, got together, added drummer Peter Criss from Brooklyn from an ad he ran in Rolling Stone, and added lead guitarist Stace Fraley from the Bronx from an ad they ran in the Village Voice. And those are legendary things.
Legendary
Everybody knows those stories. Being New Yorkers, their hero band was the New York Dolls, which was the number one draw in the city at the time. And a lot of people know those stories too.
Right.
KISS started with, again, this is one of the reasons I wanted to read this, because all these little interesting little things. KISS, at least the way he explains it. KISS started with female makeup, then tried clown makeup before evolving the present black and silver faces and costumes, which is exactly right. They talk about how they did try to do that New York Dolls androgynous looking thing. And then I can't remember if it was Gene or Paul, but they both were like, we look like we're too big. We just looked a little bit.
We saw weird. That in the 80s, right? Gene did not look
Yes.
good. Yeah.
That's right, because he did it in a movie.
Well, no, dude.
He did it in a movie, though. There was a movie where he tried. Remember that? But yes, then you're right. But then, because when they started looking like a glam metal band, it was just
not good.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
Yeah, because there was one guy in the New York Dolls, the bass player. I can't believe I can't think of his name. And he was a big dude, and it always looked it looked a little, I don't know. Looked a little weird.
Yeah.
When you did that, there was something a little different when you had somebody like David Johansen.
Yeah.
Rest his soul.
Yeah, he just passed away.
Yeah, but he even in that because he did also have that Dr. Frankenfurter look to him.
Sure.
Which is something I don't know what it is about it, but in a rock band like that, it just kind of had this cool thing.
Yeah.
You know. So okay. Anyway, so KISS started with blah 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 blah. They noted that the dolls were very New Yorkish and audiences elsewhere felt they were left out of an inside joke. So KISS relied on hard rock and magic tricks. Manager Bill Aucoin, a TV director formerly, took on the group because he thought Alice Cooper had built up an audience for flamboyant stage shows, which he soon would leave to become an actor. He thought hard rock was very commercial, and he thought the group wanted to become superstars. He got them signed to Casa Blanca, obviously, Records, a new company as its first group. At first, Stanley says, quote, we had day jobs as cab drivers from 6 to 10. Oh, as cab drivers. From 6 to 10, we were stars. And from 10 to midnight, we were going around putting up posters we designed ourselves saying we were stars, which is so interesting. Daytime, driving a cab. Evening, playing music. After playing music, work.
Yeah, hustling maybe.
And I did it's really interesting when people say this, because if you ever saw that, was it a Rush documentary where, maybe it was a KISS one where Geddy Lee talked about them. And he says, do whatever you want to. They were the hardest working band. And I was listening to a show, because we put out a show recently about Rush and Permanent Waves. And I was listening to some people talking about that album, and there was this lady talking about how she had been backstage in those early days with KISS and Rush.
Gotcha.
And she said watching them interact and how the guys in KISS showed so much respect for the band Rush. And she goes, I didn't even really like their music very much, but they were, no question about it, they were the hardest working group of guys that there was in rock and roll. And you listen to this, and it's like, that's who we were. Day job, make money, go play. Now we're going to hang up posters, work. So they earned,
they had the drive, man, no doubt about it.
Let's see here. From the beginning, they performed 200 to 250 days a year. That's a lot,
right? That's a lot.
That is. I had 1 year where we performed every single weekend, and I thought that was a lot. But I mean, the most we ever did, like in a week, was like 4 nights, once or twice, but it was mostly 2.
Right.
And that was a lot.
I mean,
this is
you're breaking 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Twice as many.
We were getting just over 100 probably. And they were.
Dude, I think
250 days a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah. A vacation was time spent in one city making a record. The group was a theatrical stage band, but they knew the music had to be good or audiences would quit coming. The music has improved, Stanley and Simmons believe, from playing together so much. And that's actually a pretty common thing anyway, because there are a lot of bands, even though there are a lot of bands where that first album is the one that is the best, and then it kind of goes after that.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah. But even then, none of those bands was that music that they just wrote last week after they met. A lot of those things are things that they've been working on over the years, and
I
their
think that's why your debut
better.
album usually does come out strong.
But you look at some bands, like these guys definitely, I think this is some of their best music, and they were several, I mean, obviously they'd been playing for, well, it's so funny because, as I said earlier, the time's compressed with them. Because, they put this out after only
they were doing like
just
an
a couple
album
of years.
almost 2 a year there for a bit.
Yeah, so the time compression's different, but their songwriting certainly was getting better and better as they went. There's a lot of bands. I mean, look at U2, for example. I know.
Yeah, we'd mentioned how Beautiful Day came out.
They were 20 years into their career, and in my opinion, that was one of their
or something.
Yeah. I mean,
and you're still writing good stuff,
and they're still writing some of their best stuff, and they're 20 years in their career. That's very uncommon. So, and these guys, I mean, the truth is, when they got into Animalize, Asylum, they got into that period, they were still writing some pretty good tunes.
There are some good songs there.
I mean, the whole album may not be a banger, but they were still some catchy stuff. Okay. Most people date the good albums from the fourth one, Alive. The sixth one, Rock and Roll Over, this is why I got this out, because this is the time period we're in, was produced by Eddie Kramer, who produced Alive. It is a return to hard rock from the variety of Destroyer, the fifth album. Alive and Destroyer are gold albums. Rock and Roll Over, which is new, hit number 93 on November 20th, its first week on the best-selling charts. The single Beth from Destroyer was number 7 on the best-selling chart of November 20th. It is the fastest-selling single so far. Rock and Roll All Night made it to number 10 about 9 months ago and sold 1 million copies, making it a gold record. Now, this is an interesting thing because...
That's cool.
First
the
of
live
all...
one.
I was going to say it's the live one.
Yeah.
They're talking about there. KISS will tour from November 24th to February 8th, go to Japan, Australia, Europe, and they add to Mars. The interview is full of witticisms from Stanley and Simmons, who explain that they're funny off stage because they're never funny on stage. Stanley says, quote, "I consider us the American band, the band that relates most to the audience. Ringo Starr's son, unquote. Ringo Starr's son, Zach, is a member of the fan club, the KISS Army."
Yeah, that means he just got the email that he might be in Vegas. If you hadn't heard,
yeah,
KISS is going to be playing in Vegas after the end of the road tour. No makeup,
yeah,
though.
Exactly.
Just saying.
That's the little
tidbit.
The little loophole
Yes.
in the well, we're not anyway. Okay.
So we're gonna see Zach.
Must be, because he's at least he was in the KISS Army 50 years ago. So okay. One fan in November burned himself severely trying to spit fire. Quote, "It is important that everybody realize you don't perform brain surgery unless you're a doctor, and you don't try to do magic tricks unless you're a magician," Stanley says. "Gene took months to learn that from a magician. If you want to be entertained, come and see us do it," unquote.
All right.
Anyway, again,
public service announcement from
again.
Gene.
This is why this article was so interesting to me, because it was these little things like that was. I don't know why I never heard this little thing that there was some kid had burned himself, and they're like, "Hey guys, let's
I'm sure.
But then again, of course, there were probably kids trying to spit fire and spit
Without
blood
a doubt.
and all that stuff back then.
Dude, I remember like if I got like an injury, like hit my mouth or something, and I had like a little trickle of blood. Immediately, I'm like, dude, I look like Gene. I'm Gene. I'd look in the mirror and be like, give me a root canal. I want to look like, have a little blood.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and then all the rumors of about Gene. Well, no, he puts razor blade. I mean, all that stuff that people would say. It was so funny.
Again, no internet, no fact checking. Right. It was all rumors and rumors of rumors.
It was all the lore projecting things onto these
cow's
these
blood,
people.
pig's blood.
That's right. He had a tongue extension put on his tongue.
Oh.
There are KISS puppets in their manager's office, which Simmons says they send out on days they don't feel like performing.
Gotta love the pre-internet days.
Yeah, that's right. That's so true. KISS puppets could be sold, and the group has been offered movies. Quote, "We hold back. We could go off the deep end," Simmons says. "We could be made into a joke." Now, this is such a great paragraph. "We could be made into a joke. A comic book is in the works right now. I think the comic book is going to be tasty. We're going to be superheroes, leap, jump, and fight crime. No guitars. We could be a bungling rock band that keeps getting into trouble. I like this a lot better." Now, this is what's so interesting about that paragraph is the self-awareness of how this could turn into a joke, and then proceeding to explain how they're going to turn it into a joke. Is that great? Isn't this great? Yeah. We hold back. We could go off the deep end. We could be made into a joke. And then immediately he says, a comic book is in the works. Like you are,
right.
You are totally aware of what could happen, and you're just going straight into it. So interesting. So fascinating.
Because, but that's tapping into the fantasy part, right? He's not, I think that can be also taken into, we're not making a movie. Oh, but wait, we will.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's going to be the joke, the laughing
stock. Within,
years.
This is 1977. It's like, they probably got the phone call after this interview. Like, hey, you know what?
You want a movie? We got a movie script for you.
Speaking of movies, we've got an idea. this will be kind of like Star Wars. Because didn't they say that? Isn't that what they heard? They said this is going to be like Star Wars meets whatever, and then yeah.
No.
And as I've said a million times before on this show, I love the fact that that movie exists.
Yeah, dude, it's good.
However embarrassing it was for so many people for so long, what a great thing that we have that to enjoy.
Yes, we do. And we enjoy it. You got to watch it every once in a while.
You got to bust out some of the clips because they're all out there.
They're all out there.
They're great. Okay. Then he goes on and he says, I stopped reading Superman when Spider-Man came along. We'll be the superheroes of the future. And then it ends up the article and says, sounds like Kiss enjoys a little fantasy itself.
That's cool.
Which is a little like, yeah, you guys, that's not going to happen. But it is, what's interesting now, and again, why this was so interesting to me, I stopped reading when Spider-Man came along, we'll be the superheroes of the future. What is it that they're trying to do right now?
The Avatars.
They have this whole idea of this thing that he said in 1977. They still have somehow that whole idea has morphed itself in so many different ways that now they're in this place where they're like, we can make that really come true now by recreating ourselves in kind of like this immortal format,
right?
Somehow. So,
I'm kind of shocked. I mean, well, there's a couple things it makes me think about. Yeah, I mean, the technology and the thing and their characters lend themselves really well, obviously, to comic books, the superhero idea, the avatars. I mean, we know, here in the latter years that you had Eric being Peter and you had Tommy being Ace. Sorry, I just had like a brain fart there. This is what happens when you're 50-something years old. Start forgetting some of these things. But, I mean, that just shows that the characters can be interchangeable, right? But it's fascinating that, there's certain things because their characters are, I mean, they're on so many things, but one thing that they're not on that I'm not aware of is lately I got a PS5 for Christmas. Those deep end video games. I have a small little Fortnite addiction now that I play Fortnite. I play Fortnite, right? And my character I picked out was, because you can buy a skin.
Yeah. And
one thing I thought of, how come there isn't, Gene, cut me in on this idea, all right? But, how come there isn't Kiss Fortnite characters? There's all these, amazing characters. There's so many cool characters. Why isn't there a Kiss Fortnite skin? To me, that's great. I mean, there are musicians out there like The Weeknd, Ariana Grande, Lionel Messi, who's a soccer great, world's most biggest soccer. He has a skin. You got all these other. Metallica has a skin.
Really?
The whole. It's amazing.
It actually surprising me.
Super cool. Why doesn't Kiss have one?
That's actually a really great.
But that's kind of taking this to the next level. I mean, and the avatars, right? And Gina said that's going to be now a quote unquote in a recent article a placeholder for bigger things to come. I don't know what that means, but obviously you're saying in 1977 they had the foresight that these characters can be bigger than them.
Yeah. And getting back to these points here, you start talking about Spider-Man and Superman, both of whom he mentioned. Who is Spider-Man?
Peter Parker.
And who's Peter Parker? Well, it's been in the last 20 years, it's been 4 different people, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And Spider-Man, Christopher Reeves is kind of the one that a lot of us know, but it's been like a dozen people have been Superman.
I mean, how many actors does Batman have?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, a whole bunch.
If you can capture that and become, because getting back now, coming full circle on this album cover, what is, I mean, this kind of captures Paul's essence. Likeness a little bit, But that's not Ace's likeness, really. And that's definitely not, that's a cat.
Right.
That's a full-on cat. That's nothing.
It's a representation of their character.
Yeah, these are all, even though that one captures Paul's likeness a little bit, these others don't really do that. They are characters. And you really could, I think they've taken a stab at it a couple times with the comic book and thing, but if it was done right, they're looking at this, and actually maybe they've kind of arrived there because one of the things that we said in a previous show, we read it somewhere, or maybe it was when they were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was somewhere I heard this, like these are the most recognizable faces in the world.
Huh.
KISS. Everybody knows. Yes, these things. You look at that and it's like,
I know
KISS.
who that is.
I know what this is. I understand what this is. And there's very few people that have reached that level where you can go almost anywhere on the planet and that's KISS.
Yeah. No, without a doubt.
And these guys have in some way reached that level, and then if they can harness that.
I mentioned that back in the 90s, they had a video game. I want to say it's like Nightmare Child or something like that. Like a PC video game that I bought that I think I have. Actually, that's part of my spring cleaning is kind of to get to see if I have that. And I'll bring it in if I do and share it with you guys. But it's a video game, PC first-person shooter game, if I remember right, that you are one of the characters or go through the game. It's been so long I don't remember, and I didn't play it all that much, but I was like, that's cool. I mean, that's next level type stuff. It's not them, but it's their characters. Larger than life. It's cool
Yeah,
stuff.
again, it transcends them as people. And they've been trying to sell us on that idea for a long time, but we all
since 77.
Well, since way back then. Like these characters that we have here, these are superheroes. And they really, where that really, really became obvious, maybe for the first time, was the album cover for Destroyer. Where somehow these four guys now, they're running over the rubble. They've got the outfits, they've got the whole thing.
Us against the world.
And this is we are officially here, coming out as these superhero characters. This album comes out, and in some way, like I was saying a second ago, even though that captures Paul's likeness a little bit, they're just characters, clearly. And then you get on to the next album, Love Gun, and then again you have these larger than life, the superhero build, the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing here also is we're talking about the influence of their characters is what this article is kind of talking about, right? And what I look at is when I see this, it's also like their music, as we mentioned in the beginning, on this album is incredible.
Yeah.
All of them are, hitting their stride really well. I mean, some of these albums they've played live for years. Mm-hmm. Years, and they're great albums.
Yeah, and this one to me, again coming back to the beginning, it probably will always be my favorite album that they put out, and partly because there's the nostalgia from being a little kid, and I used to have my little record player and I just play it over and over and over and over again, and I'm trying to figure out who's who, and I'm staring at it for hours and hours on end. But man,
it was the gateway to everything KISS, right? The KISS cards, the lunchbox, the thermos, I want to be them for Halloween, like everything. I mean,
which honestly is the gateway to us sitting here, not just because we had this, but all of this, to Black Sabbath, to Judas Priest, to the Scorpions,
just music in general,
to everything. This was the kind of the gateway into that world that even to this day,
here we are.
We're sitting here like doing this because of, and for me, it was because of this record and these songs. And so even though, again, I'm biased a little bit because of the nostalgia, I go back and listen to these tunes. The production is solid. They play well.
Yeah.
The music is good. The songs are catchy.
Yeah,
and
I love
the guitar tone. It's cool.
Yeah, super great. I mean, I love it. There's, being an Ace guy, his soloing on some of the stuff, solo on Making Love, it's freaking great. And the visuals,
the guitar hook on that is.
Remember the you mentioned Hard Luck Woman, right?
Yeah.
But Hard Luck Woman, I think, is the video where they're playing the double neck, and Ace is standing behind Paul, kind of reaching around. You remember seeing that video?
No.
If you guys remember that, there's a video. They're playing Hard Luck Woman, I want to say. Again, I don't remember anything, but visually, I'm a visual person, I feel. And I remember like a video to Hard Luck Woman, and you got Paul playing on the top part.
That's funny. I seem to remember something about that.
Kind of reaching around. They're both playing the same guitar, but like together. I mean, I've never seen that before.
I seem to remember something
it's not like
that.
Bon Jovi and, you remember on Unplugged, MTV Unplugged, when they did like, it wasn't like Richie Sambora had the double neck acoustic and, John Bon Jovi got behind him and was playing that. People would have been like, what the hell?
What is going on here?
Right? They were sitting down as well. But I do remember that and just being like, dude, that's really cool.
If never I met you, never has seen you cry.
We can kind of demonstrate, but I'm going to pass right now.
We'll pass on that one. That was that was so interesting. Anyway, this was you can see kind of why I wanted to read this. There were just so many cool little things in there. The way that this person had put this article together,
because it is kind of, because I bet up until the point until Alive really blew up, and then you had Beth on top of that and Destroyer's success. I bet there was a point there after Dress to Kill, which, by the way, just celebrated its 50th anniversary. And I seen a bunch of fans, online got together at the street corner intersection.
I saw that picture.
How cool was that?
That was
tons of fans.
Amazingly cool.
Yeah, really cool. And I guess you can do like an audio tour where you walk around and check that out. It's out there.
That's awesome.
My point is that you have Alive, Destroyer, the success of Beth, but basically from Dress to Kill, and then I got off on the tangent, that for a moment they were teetering on, this might not make it. This might have been a flash in the pan. Hey, remember that band in New York that had makeup? Totally different, things. Right? It could have been that, but it wasn't. And thanks to their tenacity, we talked about the hardest working band and their vision. But I bet the next phase is once they've kind of hit that top of the mountain, I think that's when that marketing machine or this vision of them being like, we can be larger than life. We are bigger than, our characters are bigger than us. Maybe those ideas start taking shape. It seems like it from the article. That's what I'm getting at. And obviously I'm looking backwards in time,
And the reality of it is, for most of the world, the characters are bigger than them, because most people, that's what they know. Like we said a few minutes ago, some of the most recognizable faces in the world, and yet there's a lot of people that would recognize their face and not have a clue what music they played, and yet they still know who they are. So they somehow, that's been on some level achieved.
My daughter got me this album recently for a birthday or Father's Day, and thank you, Marissa.
That's cool.
And on vinyl, and she couldn't tell me, like, she's like, "Is it any good?" I'm like, "You gotta listen to it. I can't tell you that." I think she did.
So funny,
but it's awesome. This is one of my favorite albums there.
Yeah.
And so I'll leave it at that.
Cool. Anyway, I'm glad we took the time to talk about this one. I've been wanting to actually spend some time to talk about this for a long time, and so this was actually really fun.
Well, it's near and dear to your heart.
It is. This one really matters to me on a very, very deep level. And like I said, not only not only did I love the music and it have that impact on me when I was a kid, that I had that moment where it's like, now my son,
Yeah,
here's the record.
for sure.
And then he goes to Paul. And then Paul's like, and I'm like,
That
dude,
is cool.
that is amazing to see that happen. And he actually mentioned it to me not long ago. He says, hey, you should take my record and put it on your show sometime. I'm like, yeah, which probably one of these days I'm going to have to bust that out and bring it up. But he loves the fact that he's got that thing.
And it to Andrew.
To Andrew.
That just makes it that
pretty
much
neat.
better, man.
It was pretty.
Cool.
It was pretty awesome. So anyway, hey, if you're not following the channel already, please follow the channel. Leave your comments. This is the kind of show we really want to hear what you have to, what your thoughts are on all this stuff. Where did this album fit for you? The tracks on this album. What did you think about Hard Luck Woman when you were a kid and you listened to this record? And this being sandwiched in between Destroyer and Love Gun, where does this one fit for you as far as somebody that likes Kiss? And then, obviously, the characters. What are your thoughts on the characters? Because now, when you see these parallels between what was being said in 1977, the vision that they had for what this could be, and then here we are today, kind of watching that whole thing almost 5 decades later, starting to maybe take shape, like really take shape. So we'd love to get your feedback on that. And so anyway, so please follow the channel, like the video, leave your comments, and no Kiss fan is an island. So we know you know other people that are Kiss fans. We have had so many people email us now sending us things, I mean, it's
been
crazy
awesome.
all the stuff that we're getting now.
But great.
Please, and a lot of people saying, hey, I'd love to help. Well, how can I help the channel? And the biggest thing you can do is take this video, hit the share button, and because you know other Kiss fans, just go share it.
Yeah.
Email it to them. Let them know that this stuff is here, and then we'll all kind of take this little fraternity that we have going here and just continue to have the thing grow. And so, hey, with that, have yourself a fantastic day.